everyone, welcome to episode 130 of the Arieknits podcast. My name is Ariel and this is a video podcast where I talk about all the things that I've been knitting and spinning on for the past week. Today it is Saturday, September 27th, and I have some fun updates. I have some finished objects that are washed and blocked, which is amazing for me because I've been going through a very long time period where I'm not washing and blocking things, even if I have the time to do it before a podcast. I'm just lazy with that for some reason, but I did it for two of them at least for this week, and I have a new cast on, which is exciting, and I have like a little sewing update. I did some sewing this past weekend, which weekend and also throughout this week. And I finished it. You might see a little sneak peek of it right there. But yeah, let's get right into this video. Let's first talk about what I'm wearing today. This is the first time I'm wearing this on the podcast. This is the Rivendell Pullover by Sari Nordlund. I use Exploreknits Earthy DK yarn in the colorway Chinle. And I knit size 1. I used US 4 needles, 3.5mm needles to knit this. And final measurements, I got 37 inches in circumference, so that gives me about 7 inches of positive ease right at the widest part of the sweater. There are decreases on the body, and so as it goes closer to the hem, it does decrease. So at like right under the arm is where I measured around 37 inches, and that's basically around the size or the measurement for this size, and so I think I was pretty on gauge for this, and this is my first time wearing it. I love it. I think it fits really nicely, and I think it's so cute. Again, I have been, if you've watched this podcast before, you'll probably know that I have, or at least I think I mentioned it before, that this sweater is on my Make 9 for this year, and so that is another like plus for finishing one of those Make 9 projects. But also, I've been wanting to make this sweater since it came out, like this pattern. And it's been a while now. I want to say probably over a year since this pattern came out, and I'm so happy I finally have it done because it is so pretty. I love the cables. I just think, I'll stand up so you can see this too, but I love the cable detail that's on this V-neck. I think it's really nice, and I'm happy to have it as a finished object. So let me stand up and show this to you. You can probably see how the decreases are because it is quite snug right here where the ribbing is, but if I raise up my arms, you'll kind of see that shaping here. And yeah, here it is. There's a nice drop shoulder here for the sleeves. Sleeves has cables right at the top and seed stitch all at the bottom. There is a, right along the underarm, there is a fake kind of seam looking. It's just a twisted knit stitch, I believe, and that's how it is along the sides as well, on both sides here. And here is all of that V-neck cable. I love how it comes together right here with the cables here and just that extra stitch details that go all the way down. So this V looks like, obviously the actual V-neck goes right up here. It's actually a very comfortable V-neck depth for me, but the pattern detail goes really low. My belly button is like right here, and so it's basically, it feels weird because when you're knitting on this, you're like, ooh, I have like a lot of body left to knit, but once you finish this, you actually don't have that much more to knit, which was really nice knitting this. And yeah, I just think it's really pretty. Like just this top section that you can see when you're sitting down. I love. It's just really pretty. Also, I really like it in this color. Chinle is one of my favorite colors from Exploreknits, like ever. And so to have it in this sweater, I think is perfect. And knitting this was totally fine. Instructions were fine. I don't think that I made any modifications to this. Followed the decreases for the body, followed the decreases for the sleeve. Sleeve length is perfect for me, not too short and not too long. What else? Oh, I guess, okay, one thing I talked about in last week's video, and some of you had some thoughts about why this might be happening. And so you probably can't see it while the sweater's on me, and honestly, it's something you'll only see if you're looking really close. But the seed stitch that's happening here, I've noticed once I joined like in the round, the columns of stitches started to look a little twisted, and even while I was working on this, when I tried to lay it flat, the body kind of just wanted to naturally twist. And a lot of you brought up to me that it, not a lot, I just, a few of you have brought it up to me that it's probably because knitting flat, it's just stacked rows, but when you're knitting in the round, it's actually in a spiral, and so it's probably why that did that. So that was a great observation. Thank you all for that. So yeah, but honestly, it was just something I noticed because I'm looking really closely at the sweater. I don't think it's something you can see while you're wearing the sweater, or while, it's such a small minor detail, but it was just one that I noticed and wanted to share with you all. So I'm probably not the only one where that happens. That happens with seed stitch, but yeah, I just want to share it with you all. But I don't think it affects the sweater at all as far as like fit or how it looks, and I love it. Again, this is my first time wearing it, and so haven't given it a full proper kind of like wear test, but like right now as I'm wearing it, I love it. Okay, I do want to note one thing about this yarn. I think I mentioned it right in the beginning of when I was knitting this sweater, because it is the Explorer Earthy DK base, and I think that this particular yarn, like this Chinle yarn in Earthy DK, I might have been from an earlier, like one of the earlier time when Explorer Knits had the Earthy DK base, which is a non-superwash DK weight yarn that they have. And I haven't used this, I used this just now, but I have used other Explorer Knits Earthy DK base in different colorways that I have bought at a later time in the span of when the Earthy DK base was offered by them. And I do not know if they changed their base, or it's with the darker colors, the base feels different or something, or how they dyed it. I have no idea. But this particular Earthy DK base feels a lot less soft than the current Earthy DK base and all the other. I guess I would have to go and touch all of my Earthy DK base, which I don't have a lot of, but this is the only one that doesn't feel as soft as the others. So I don't know if it was because of the color or what it was, but it just feels less soft. Like if the current Earthy DK base, if someone were to tell me, oh, like you touch it and like, wow, it's so soft, and someone says like, oh, it's non-superwash, I feel like normally when someone says non-superwash, it kind of people tend to think, oh, it's going to be more rough, it's going to be more itchy. So when I touch the current or the more recent Earthy DK base that I have from Explorer Knits, I'll be like, wow, it's non-superwash, it's so soft. And honestly, I feel like softer than some superwash bases. But with this one, I would be like, oh yeah, non-superwash. Because it does feel a little bit, just a tad prickly compared to the other Earthy DK that I felt. So that is just one. I wondered if washing and blocking this would make it softer. And I do think it made it a little softer, a little smoother, but it's still not as soft as the other things I've knit with this base. So again, I don't know why, maybe because this was an earlier version, but that's just what I'm feeling. But it's not going to stop me from wearing this, because it doesn't feel like mohair. If you all know, I haven't talked about it in a while, but I used to knit with mohair in the very early parts of me knitting, because I was like, I would basically look at a pattern and be like, oh, it uses mohair, that's interesting, buy the yarn, knit it up, and I was like, wow, this is so itchy, like I cannot wear this. Then I found out about Sari, and I never really looked back. Like I just knit with Sari instead of mohair. Why did I bring that up? Just because of itchy? But yeah, so this does not feel as itchy as that. It's not going to stop me to wear it. I love this. It's just something I wanted to note. But yeah, I really do love how this looks. I'm so happy that I have it done, and it was part of my Make 9, so I feel good checking that off too. And yeah, I'm just overall really happy with this finished object. So yeah, so this is my Rivendell pullover. Hopefully, if I'm good, what I probably should be doing, I've talked about this a lot, or I've mentioned this a lot, is I need to take finished object pictures of my things. I need to keep up to date. I'm trying to get caught up. I should really just, because I'm wearing it, I should go and take a picture of it right after I film this, so that I just have the pictures. I do still have like backlog of pictures that I just haven't posted, which is also another problem of mine, but part of it is just like taking the pictures. So that's what I'm telling myself. That's what I'm telling you to keep me accountable. At least because then I'll be like, oh, I told them I would take a picture, so I probably should take a picture. Okay, let's move on. I have 2 finished objects for this week. They're actually still slightly damp because even though they were done earlier in this week, it took me until last night to actually wash and block them. And it was like right before I went to sleep. I did put the fan on them so that they would dry. And they did dry, you know. I've learned within the past year, putting the box fan on my knits while they dry makes them dry so much faster. But they're still a little damp because I really just did them late last night. But they're done. And I actually did wash and block them. Okay, here's the first one. Oh, I could stare at this forever. I have not actually tried this on yet, so I'll have to try it on after I film this. I'm so excited. This is the Floret top by Marie Wedge. And the yarn I use is Little Wing Fibers Shadow Sock Base in the colorway Nori. I knit size 2, and I use US 2.5, which is 3.0 millimeter needles, to knit this. And it is just, I'm gonna hold it up again. I'm gonna hold it up, gonna bring you closer to it, move it back. It is really so pretty. Also, yeah, I really just like took this off of the blocking mats, and so I am trying to keep it kind of like as flat as possible, but it is kind of why it's laying, or I'm holding it up and it's being really nice and well behaved. Right now, but as you can see, the sleeve ruffles really are draping so nicely compared to last time. They were just all curled up on itself, but now it's nice and flat and so nice and drapey. You can see the ruffle there, the gathers, the nice, you know, short row shaping. It tapers right here at the end of the body. Hold it back up here for a little bit. Yeah, so this is the finished top. I will most likely be wearing this in next week's podcast. This was lovely. So nice to work on. So all I had to do this week, the only work that I had done on it this week is one of the ruffle sleeves. That's all I had to do this week. And so that was pretty easy for me to like get motivated to do, because I was just like that close to getting it done. And honestly, even though it looks, it's like a ruffle, and also it's not just like around the armhole, but like around from the bottom of the front all the way around to the back part, it didn't feel too terribly long to work on, because the short rows are actually pretty, like every time that you extend past the double stitch in the short row, you do actually knit quite a bit into it, and so there's not actually that many rows, I would say. So it didn't feel too terribly long. I really love the edging detail on this and how it was done. Just slightly finicky, and it is just a lot of stitches, but totally worth it, and I think it really adds to the touch on this. It's so nice. Other than that edging, the rest of the edging, so like the neck, the hem, and the actual like armhole here is I-cord. So it keeps that pretty simple right there. So that sleeve just kind of like goes over that. And there's those nice, as you knit the actual like body part, of this, the sleeves are done separately, like you pick up and do the sleeves at the end. But when you're making the rest of the body, you are making these eyelets all the way down on both sides, on the front and the back. That's a nice detail, I think, as well for this. And okay, this yarn is so soft. It's so soft. And it's so drapey. This is going to be a dream to wear. I know it. I know it is. So I'm so pumped to try this on and to wear it. No itchiness at all. It is so smooth, so soft. I think it'll be nice to wear even in warmer climates, warmer temperature. And it's so nice. The gauge on this is a little small. I was worried about it, but it didn't feel terribly, unlike some other like shirts that I've made in fingering weight where the gauge is kind of small. I'm thinking something like the Moonset tee or something. This one did not feel as long to make. Could be because it's smaller. I have no idea. But I love it. I love it so much. I want to make another one in a different color. I think I mentioned last time black would be so pretty in this. But I'm just going to enjoy this as it is. I think this was the perfect yarn base color combination for this pattern. And I'm so excited to wear this. It's so pretty. It's so pretty, but I feel like so easy to wear. Like it'll just be an easy thing to put on and then just be like instantly cute, you know, because of the ruffle sleeves. So I'm really, really happy with this. This was so nice to make. I did this with, at least with the yarn I used, which I think had more than 400 yards per skein, so keep that in mind. I think it was a bit of a lighter fingering weight base, but I did this size 2 in with 2 skeins. I think I have like 20 grams left of my second skein left over, but I feel like that's a success. I was able to use most of the 2 skeins of this I had. It matched the yardage estimate. Like I wasn't super worried because I had enough yarn based on the yardage estimates, but you know, you never know. But I made it with lots of extra yarn, 20 grams of yarn. And this was yarn This was yarn I bought from Flock this year. And now I have a finished object, which feels so good. Feels so good. And so I'm feeling motivated for using up my yarn. I'm going to hold it up again because it's just so pretty. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. Okay. Yeah, you will see this again because I will be wearing it probably next week's video, unless it's like too cold because it is short sleeve and it's getting a little cooler here. But we'll see. But I will be wearing it on a future podcast episode. Okay, for my second finished object for this week, my last finished object this week, you might be able to guess, I finished my pressed flowers socks. These are still a little damp. These were the last things that I washed and blocked last night. And these are my September socks. And so we're still in the month of September. I finished my September socks. I'm feeling really good about my year of socks so far. The last 3 months, the last 3 socks might be a bit of a push to finish. I have so many things I need to finish this year. But September is done with the socks. This pressed flower socks patterned by Amy Christoffers. The main color for these is Explore Knits Denali sock in the colorway Thistle, and the contrast color is some Handspun from Union Fibre, and this pattern is one size. I just followed the pattern stitch counts. It worked out sizing for me, and I used US 1 needles, 2.25 millimeter needles to knit this. It was basically, the pattern calls for using 2 different needle sizes, basically one for like where the actual pattern happens, and a different needle size for the ribbing, for the heel, and probably also for the toe. But I just used 1 needle size. There was 2 needle sizes, and I used the one right in between the needle size they suggested. US 1 is my preferred needle for socks anyway, and so I just did that. But worked out great. Sizing is great. And I was worried about because I've made the pressed flowers cardigan before, I was worried about this feeling finicky. The Press Flowers cardigan did not feel finicky to make. I think that one might have been my first time doing mosaic knitting, and it worked out really nice. But I was kind of wondering, in a smaller circumference, with a smaller needle size, thinner yarn, is it going to feel finicky? The answer, at least for me, is no. It actually worked out really nicely. Very easy to work on, and I enjoyed working on these. The heel is done as a forethought heel, and so you do put in like a yarn piece of yarn while you're knitting it, and so yeah, actually just knitting it kind of like a tube. You do the toe, and then you go back in later and put in the heel. That, I would say, was the most finicky thing I have done, was to pick up the stitches from that waist piece of yarn to go and do the heel after. And actually, when I went to check on these socks this morning to see if they were dry and all of that to film, I noticed that I had a drop stitch right here. Like, there was a live stitch just hanging out over here, not attached to anything. And I was like, how did I miss that? Does make sense though, because I do remember as I was working this heel, I was counting my stitches and I was like, oh, did I like decrease extra somewhere because I have one less stitch? And so I do think that maybe I just dropped it on the pickup or somewhere. I never picked it back up. I just finished the heel and it was just hanging out like that. Thankfully it didn't pull up all the way up. Like, it was just hanging out there. So I did just go in and I don't know how to mend socks, which is probably something I should figure out how to do. But for this, I just winged it. I just got some spare piece of yarn and I just threaded it through that one loop of a stitch, and then I just kind of wove in the ends on the inside. So I'm pretty sure it's saved, but yeah, that was a bit scary this morning, but I got it fixed right away so that I can wear them. I think I'm really happy with this color combination. I feel like the Handspun, the color contrast isn't, or the color contrast with the main color is good because you can see the flower stitches, but you can't really see the Handspun yarn. The color contrast within that yarn is very, it's very similar. It's mostly purple, different shades of purple with some green in there, and it's not super noticeable in here. I feel like you could maybe see, kind of looks like there's just a shadow right here, but that is actually where the green color from the Handspun comes in. It's darker purples up here versus up here, so you can see in this one. But I'm happy with it. Either way, I like that there are just slight color changes between the two, but you know that these are a set, and so that's really great. I love it. Yeah, I'm really happy I made these socks. I had this pattern for quite a bit. I think that there might have been a bundle save on the Press Flowers patterns, because I'm pretty sure I bought the cardigan, socks, and the shawl all at the same time, and so I had this pattern for a while, and it just makes me happy to knit with a pattern that I've had in my library for, some time. So, yeah, I am very pleased with these socks. I like my color combination for it. September socks done, knit it with the pattern that I had in my library for some time. It's all great things, all great things. Okay, so those are my two finished objects, and then I have 3 whips to talk about. 2 you've already seen before, so they're just updates, and then 1 is a new cast on. So but the new cast on will always be at the end. I feel like that's how I've been liking to do my whip sections, is to have my new cast ons at the end of it. Okay, I also feel good about the progress on this, and I'll tell you what I did too. Well, it's not, I always tell you what I do. Okay, here's my Mabel's sweater by Joji Locatelli. The yarn I'm using is Explore Knit's Denali sock in the colorway Leaf Peeping. It's also yarn that I bought from Flock this year, and I'm knitting size 2, and I'm using US 3 needles, 3.25 millimeter needles to knit this. Okay, and I will hold up what I have right now. I am still on the first sleeve, So if I show you this stitch marker, that's where I was last week, and I've knit a bit more, maybe like double the length of what I had from before. I actually just finished my last decrease, and so that's where I decided to stop. And I actually did it. I steam blocked the sweater. Mostly the sleeve though. That's where I concentrated the steam blocking, but I actually did it. I did do it maybe like half an hour ago, like right before filming the podcast, but I did it because the thing that was stopping me from finishing the sleeve is knowing how long this is going to be, because most instructions, after you're done with the decrease, it'll say continue straight, no decreases until it reaches a certain length or whatever length you like. And from my gauge swatch of this stitch pattern, it grew quite a bit. Or I don't want to say like, it didn't grow like a ton. I wouldn't say that, but it did grow. And just the way that this stitch pattern is, I just knew that once it gets wet blocked, it's going to relax and it is going to grow more than some other knits and yarns and like other things. And so I wanted to make sure, I, as much as possible, want to make the sleeve the right size, right length for me. So I wanted to steam block it. Well, I was like, the best way would be to wet block it, because that's how I'm going to end up finishing it anyway, and that's would be the most accurate. But I was like, I'm gonna go the lazy route and at least steam block it to get me an idea. And I wanted to let you know. I was like, I should measure it so that you can all know. It started before I steam blocked this section of the sleeve. I was at 13 inches in length. After steam blocking, I got 14. So it didn't grow. Actually, it didn't grow as much as I thought it would, although wet blocking might make it grow more. However, it did give me a good idea, and at least gives me an inch. Sometimes an inch can be quite a bit. So it did give me an inch longer in length, and so now I feel a lot more comfortable knitting a little bit extra and then going on to the cuff. And so I think I will be knitting a little bit more in pattern to get it to be slightly longer in length, and then I will go on and do the ribbing. And so hopefully I can finish up this sleeve this week. That would be really great. And then I will start the second sleeve. And since I have a pretty good idea on what I usually do in this case, because I do my sleeves one at a time. I know some people do them at the same time, but I cannot do that. I have to do sleeves one at a time. But to make sure that I make them equal, as long as my gauge doesn't change too much in between doing sleeves, I just, especially when it's like, oh, I do all the decreases, and then how much more do I knit after the last decrease before I do cuffs, that's where I'm going to make sure I have my stitch marker here for where the last decrease was. And so I will make sure when I do the second sleeve that I'll do the same amount after the last decrease, so that the sleeves will match up. So that'll be interesting. I may steam block this again after like with the full first sleeve done, maybe do it after the second sleeve also, just so that I get an idea for this. Because again, it was so funny because when I did steam block also kind of like this upper top part here, and it really like relaxed. It was pretty crazy. Like you could see it happening as I had the steamer on it. It just like relaxed. And so it will grow. This stitch does grow. I think it maybe wouldn't even matter what kind of yarn you use. It'll just relax. I think that's the thing. It's kind of like ribbing. Ribbing opens up when you block it. So, but yeah, I feel like I can, if I just like hold up just this section of the sleeve here, you can just see, oh, I love how this stitch pattern looks. I love it. It was a bit of a learning curve for me to doing this stitch in the beginning, but doing that swatch, this one is, okay, unless it's a test, I don't normally gauge swatch. That's just the way I roll. But for this one, I would highly recommend gauge swatching if you're planning on doing this. I think it would be totally worth it so that you can see how it grows after blocking. And this is also a pattern where I highly recommend gauge swatching and also washing and blocking and drying your gauge swatch before you start. This one, I think in particular, just the stitch just behaves quite differently than other things that I have knit. So I would, even if you don't normally do it, for this one, I would say would recommend. Although I guess I should say I recommend doing it all the time. But there are just some circumstances where it's more, I feel like more recommended. Things could go more wrong if you don't for projects. And I think that this might be one of them. But it's pretty. It's pretty. It's drapey. It's pretty airy. Like if you kind of hold it up, like you can see through it a bit. It feels like it's at a looser gauge because of I guess the looseness of the stitch, but I like how it's fitting and feeling. I did try this on as is after steam blocking it a little bit, and yeah, the drape on this is going to be really nice, and it renewed my excitement for this. I say renewed because I've always been excited, but you know, once you get to a certain point, like once you split for sleeves, I feel like then my motivation or my steam, like to work on it, kind of like goes down, just because I'm like, okay, it's the sleeves. Sleeves on this were little, like I had to really kind of like count a bit, or like I had to really keep track of the counts, because again, the rows, when you're counting just the V's of the knits, it's 3. You will count 3 for every 4 you actually knit. And so it was just a little bit of like a mind, like I had to like keep focus. Once I figured it out, it was fine, but it did kind of prevent me from working on it too much, because I was like, I need to like actually focus and concentrate a bit. But now I have it all figured out, and now that I have a better measurement for the final product of the sleeve, I'm feeling much better about continuing on this. I'm excited to get the second sleeve done so that I can just work in the round on the body, because I still have more to go on the body for sure. But yeah, this is my Mabel sweater, and it's feeling really great. I have been working on it not only when I'm watching the new episodes from Only Murders, but you know, other times as well. But it is the one that I'm like, oh, well, while I'm watching the new episode of Only Murders in the Building, I will also work on this. So yeah, it's been great. I'm hoping to get this done. Oh, I'm knitting this for Hoki's fall knit along, and so it would be actually quite nice to get this done for the actual knit along. And I think I have until the end of November for that. So far I think I'm on an okay track. I feel like how I need to maybe sort of pace it is like how much grams of yarn am I finishing every week? Like part of me is like, if I do 50 grams every week, and how much total yarn, I probably won't use all of the yarn I have, but it's kind of like an estimate then. And I think I have 4 skeins of this, so I was like, if I do, you know, half a skein every week, then that'll be 8 weeks to get this done. Obviously that's not the rate that I'm working on this, but it's a thought that I've had for this sweater, and actually for some other sweaters that I have as well. Versus trying to be like, oh, let me get a sleeve done and then another sleeve done. I mean, I'm thinking about that as well. Like, I'm like, you know, I want to finish this first sleeve this week and then also get started and get some pretty significant progress done on the second sleeve as well. But I've been also thinking about how much yarn I'm using every week for that. So yeah, that's just how my mind works. But yeah, so that's my Mabel sweater. Okay, the next one, this one I've also made good progress on. I just needed to get to a more interesting part on this. I feel like, that's why I feel like having the podcast is kind of nice, because I feel it's not bad pressure for me. It's good pressure. I'm like, oh, I need to show something interesting, and so I need to work on certain projects a little bit more, or get to certain points in projects. And for me, I like that motivation. Okay, let's just hold up. This is the Redmond hoodie by Hanna Maciejewska, and the yarn I'm using is Woolfolk Tynd in the colorway 00, which is just white, I'm knitting size 1, and I'm using US 3 needles, 3.25 millimeter needles to knit this. Again, this is the project where Woolfolk has gifted me the yarn, and to specifically make this hoodie, because it was the hoodie, the sample I saw at Flock, and I fell in love, and I really, really, really wanted to make it. But here's what I have. It's actually starting to look like a sweater. I did split for sleeves, as you can maybe tell, and I've worked maybe like an inch and a half, I'm hoping, just a little bit under the arm so far, just in the round. For the body, there's a provisional cast on, so that's why you see this blue yarn at the top. And the body's a little squished on my needles right now. But yeah, here's what I have so far. It's really great to be split for sleeves now, because those rounds were getting so long. So many increases, so many stitches, so it feels good to be just working on the body now. And I did, speaking of like kind of like measuring how far my progress on the knits, I am for this one. The skeins are in 50 gram skeins, and so part of me feels like I should be every week work on it almost a full skein. I mean, that's crazy, but you know, again, it's just in my mind. I'm like, well, if I did do 50 grams of this every week, that'll get me done in, you know, whatever X amount of weeks. I have 7 skeins of this. Again, they're 50 grams. And this is how much I have of my, I actually, wonder if I can see the ends on this. Oh, here we go. Oh, I didn't even show you my marker from last time, just to like show you where I was. So I was here. This is my stitch marker from last time. If you're looking at it from like, you know, in the round, I was probably around here for those increases. And so I had to work a lot more. Actually, I think it might have been 10 rows of increases more, or was it 20? Anyway, maybe like 10 of regular increases more, and then I did the split for sleeves and then worked more on the body. So I feel like that was actually pretty good progress. And within that, I also had to skein up or wind up my second ball of yarn. So I did get past the first skein. This is my second skein now. And what was I gonna say? Oh, well, I guess I could find the ends to show you where I broke off for the, or not broke off, it's just where I connected my second skein, just like right there. Right there, you can see the ends. Probably not that interesting, but I did work a bit into my second skein already, which is really great. Progress-wise, would be really nice if I could finish up this skein this week, I feel like. But yeah, I mentioned last time, I'll probably give an update on this every single time I talk about this on the podcast. I am trying to keep note of how many knots I encounter in the skeins, because someone did mention that as something they've noticed in the Woolfolk yarn, and it's not something that I have thought about myself. Probably not something that just like if I encountered a knot, it just didn't either register or like it was infrequent enough for me. I'm not sure, but I'm keeping an eye on it more. So far, first skein, no knots. So far in second skein, no knots encountered as well. Also, I did wind this up. You'll maybe notice it's actually in a ball and not in like a cake. And that's because I did encounter an issue winding this up. I think I just, you know how sometimes, this has also happened to me with other yarn, not just Woolfolk yarn. Sometimes if you just pick the wrong end of the yarn to start winding up with, you just end up in a tangled mess. It just like keeps not wanting to go around the skein. And so I just decided to wind it up by hand instead, because the thing was just getting caught too much. I was getting nowhere. So that is why this one is wound up by hand. But because I'm winding up by hand, I would also think if there was a knot, I would notice it or feel it, and I haven't. But, you know, it could be if I'm just going really fast, then I miss it. But so far, no knots. So I want to give you all an update on that. Yarn still feels soft. Still feels great. I can't wait I can't wait. But okay, so my plan for this is I'm pretty sure that this is not going to get me to finish the body. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep working on the body until this runs out, and then I will probably go and work on the sleeves. That's my usual order of operations for sweaters. And then I'll have to think if I want to work on the hoodie part after the sleeves and then finish the body, or finish the body and then do the hood last. I feel like for the other hoodies I've done, I've probably did the hood last, but we'll see how I'm feeling for this one. But yeah, this is my Redmond hoodie, and it's going really nicely. It's really nice to work on. So yeah. Okay, so that's that project. And then I just realized that I forgot to put a top that I have been working on my list of whips. And so, surprise, I have another whip before I talk about my new cast on. Let me just like add it to my notes really quick so I don't forget. But I actually, it's another cast on. I have 2 new cast ons this week. One of them just didn't feel like it because it is a repeat pattern. And was that a hint to what it is? Let's talk about that one. I can't believe I forgot to put it in my notes. Okay, but it's in my notes now, and we will talk about it. So, this is my Fleur Tee number 2. This one is for my mom. Patterned by Woolbird, and the yarn I'm using is Sewrella cotton linen wool in the colorway. Actually, that is the one thing I don't have in my notes. I'm gonna go in my cabinet and grab it. Okay, in the colorway Oxford. So it's this really nice blue. Let me hold up what I have so far. I am really trying to knock these out as well. So I feel like this is actually pretty good progress on this one. I am knitting size 4 for my mom, and so it is a larger size, which just means more stitches. More stitches for this, and I already know I'm going to have to make the body length longer. She does not want it cropped at all. So this is going to involve a lot more knitting, but I'm really happy to be doing it. I am excited for my mom. I hope she likes it. But yeah, so it is squished on my needles right now. It looks like it might be kind of small, but it does, it's squished on my needles. But yeah, it's working up pretty great so far. The stitch counts were, the cast on felt like it took forever, but I'm clearly past the cast on, past the 1x1 rib at the hem, and very much into the stitch pattern. And because I have the stitch pattern memorized now, I don't even have to look at the chart, and so I'm just going in the round doing the stitch pattern. This is worked bottom up, and so this is the bottom of the tee. And yeah, so far it's looking great. It's feeling great. I just need to just get going on this because, again, I want to knit 3 of these before Christmas. And so I finished mine, working on my mom's right now, and then I still have my sister's to go after this. So yeah, hopefully I can make like at least this much progress every week. Then maybe I won't be on the timeline for wanting to finish this when I want to finish it. The good thing is that my sister is going to come and visit me very soon, and because I'm like, whenever I knit things for other people, I'm just so worried about sizing and if it's going to fit, just because my gauge, you can gauge swatch and do all the things, but sometimes the gauge is a little off from the pattern measurements, or your final product will be a little off from final measurements sometimes. And so, anyway, I'm just always nervous when I knit for someone else because they're not, usually most of the time, they're not always there for them to try it on while I'm knitting it. But anyway, my sister is coming to visit me very soon, and since I have my top done, she can try it on. I'm hoping I remember to have her do this. I want her to try mine on so I can see sizing wise what she would like, if she wants the same size, if she wants a different size, she wants it to be longer, anything like that. And so I am very happy that that timing kind of worked out. But that's my goal. But yes, I'm working on my mom's one right now, and she is not here, and so I cannot. I've gotten her measurements, and so I'm gonna just like keep looking and measuring what I have to hopefully make it as close to the perfect measurements as possible for her. But yeah. Okay, so that is my Fleur Tee number 2. Working on it again. That is a new cast on from this week. And then let's talk about my other new cast on this week. This is for my, I know, this is so crazy. I have 2 more things on my Make 9 to finish out the year and to get that accomplished. And I really, really would love to do it. So I cast on the Freddie Pullover by Emily Chen. I have test knit for her in the past. And the first time I test knit for her was her first ever pattern. And so she gave us like a code, or just asked if we wanted a pattern from her in the future. And I think this was probably her second pattern maybe. And so I did request for this pattern as, like the payment for test knitting when it came out. And so I've had this pattern for quite some time, and I've been wanting to make it, just like, no yarn combination stood out, or like I had enough in stash to make it, but I finally do have some yarn. Or finally do have yarn with enough yardage to make this. As you've probably seen from the picture that I showed up here, it is a sweater pullover. It's a V-neck, and it has like a collar, and I think it's so cute, so slouchy, and looks very relaxed. And the stitch pattern is also very interesting. It's like rib and cables. Okay, the yarn I'm using for this is Explore Knits Rockies DK in the colorway Fantasy. I'm knitting size 1, and I'm using US 4 needles, 3.5 millimeter needles to knit this. I'm gonna hold up what I have so far and continue talking. This is what I have so far. I actually finished the back top section, which is great. So you can actually see the stitch pattern and what I have so far. Okay, a couple things. Needle size, I went down like 2 needle sizes. I think the pattern asked for US 6. Now I'm using US 4. I did not gauge swatch. However, I have noticed because of other Emily Chen patterns that I have knit, her gauge, what am I trying to say? Her gauge is quite small, or she knits tight. I feel like she must be a really tight knitter, and I've had to size down needles in the past pretty drastically to get gauge. So for this one, I was looked at what the gauge says, and it's hard because it's the gauge in cable pattern, and I don't know about you, but I don't have like sample, sometimes what I do, especially for like stockinette knits, which I have, lots of knit things that are knit in stockinette or have big sections of stockinette. If I know what stitch pattern I use, I'm using very similar yarn, I kind of use that as my gauge, like, oh, what is my gauge when I knit with this needle size and this yarn. Obviously it changes over time. If I'm like stressed at that time, my gauge might be smaller, like I'm knitting tighter, stuff like that. But I kind of use that as my general kind of like gauge, kind of like realm of like what my knitting is. And so I don't have clearly this stitch pattern, this cable pattern anywhere in my stash to like check. But I just looked what the gauge was and compared it to other DK weight stuff I have and what needle size I use, and I was like, wow, this is actually, the gauge for this is smaller than some of my fingering weight patterns that I've knit. Now, that could be because usually when you have cables and you're measuring your gauge with cables, the cables do kind of bring in your knitting a bit with the stitches, so that could explain it. But I already knew, and I think I've seen in other people's Ravelry projects for this too, that their gauge was like they had to size down their needles a lot, or maybe not a lot, but they had to size down their needles, or they had to switch yarn because the yarn was just too thick. Like you definitely, I think you could hit gauge pretty easily with a sport weight yarn. The pattern says DK weight, or like a fingering and a fluff. I do not think that if you had like a fingering weight that's not a light fingering, like a 400 yards for 100 gram fingering weight yarn plus a Sari, which is generally a little bit more fluffy, I do not think you could get gauge with this. Like, it would just be too fluffy. I've kind of had that problem with another pattern. But again, it's like yarn choice. And this is another thing. You just need to, like, when you're substituting yarn from what the pattern sample was made with, right? You kind of have to, like, keep that in mind. So this is not the fault of Emily, the designer, at all. I'm just stating that I think in general for her patterns, I think she's a tight knitter. And so what's great is the Rockies DK base, I think, has a little more yardage than normal DK. So it might be kind of like a light DK if I feel like, I've heard people say light fingering. I don't know if people say light DK. But I think that this is a great option for this. I sized down my needles. I did not gauge swatch, but I guess you could say my gauge swatch was this entire back section. And I measured out just across, like, because this is going to be like the width of the sweater, and I measured it against like what I have right now, which I think will still grow a little bit versus what the pattern says it should be, and I'm like right on, pretty much spot on. And so I'm feeling good about this. Needle choice, yarn choice, and all of that. So feeling great. Did I say I'm knitting size 1 for this? I think it should give me about 8 inches of positive ease is kind of where I'm trying to aim. And usually for Emily Chen's patterns, I've also noticed that the recommended ease is usually quite a bit. Like, I haven't knit, I know she has some like tank tops that are, I think, tight fitting, so I'm just going to scrap what I was about to say, but maybe like the pullovers that she has are pretty big positive ease, and so I think her recommendation usually is if you're in between sizes to size down. And that probably helps too if your gauge ends up being a little bit bigger than hers, and you size down, that, you know, and that might help make up some kind of like difference in like size if you're worried. So, but yeah, so far gauge is looking really great. The drape and kind of like texture, the denseness of the fabric that I'm getting is feeling really nice. Not too loose, but not like so tight that it's stiff. But I really like it. Also, I don't know if I have a full sweater that's in this color. I'm like looking at what I have here. That's not all my knits, but I don't think I have a full sweater that's in this kind of like teal green-blue color. So this is gonna be crazy. We'll see what I look like in a sweater in this color. The color is very pretty. I'm pretty sure I bought this yarn at Rose City Yarn Crawl this year. So again, more yarn I bought this year than I'm trying to use up before the end of the year. And it's a pretty color. I love it. I'm just a little nervous about it being a full sweater in terms of just like how much of that color will look. I'm unsure how I'm going to look in a full sweater in this color. Color's pretty, but again, I don't have a sweater fully in this color. I don't think. So yeah, I feel like, you know, like the sweater I'm wearing right now is very me color. So I'm like, I know I'm going to like how I look in it, but this one, love the color, love the pattern, and I just hope that it looks okay on me. But yeah, I actually cast this on last night, and so all of this was what I worked on last night and also this morning. And I know there's other things I also need to be working on, maybe instead, a little more important, but I needed like that boost of a new cast on, and also I'm looking around, I needed something that was not fingering weight. I'm pretty sure everything else I'm working on is fingering weight. And so I really needed a DK weight, at least a DK weight project to work on, so that it feels like I'm making more progress on something than my fingering weight projects, even though I love them. But yeah, I needed, working on that felt so nice. It felt like it was flying compared to my fingering weight sweaters that I'm working on. But yeah, so those were my 2 new cast-ons and my 2 other whips for this week. I have a bit of a spinning update. I finished plying this was my little Fibre Co. Rambouillet combo spin. I showed it to you all last week. This was the thing that did not get washed this week. I also didn't skein up off of the bobbin the second skein of this, but it's plied. Like, it's all done. I just need to skein up the second skein and wash them and dry them. But I'm going to hold up just what I have again. This is Dusk and Snowshine plied together. And I did want to show this to you again because I said now that it's done, I'm going to hold up my options for the pressed flower shawl that I'm going to make. Pressed flower shawl, it's the last thing that's on my Make 9 for this year, so I'm really hoping I can get to it and finish it this year. But this is my main color that I'm going to use for the pressed flower shawl. This is Maitake from Little Fibre Co. Falkland DK, which feels so nice. I'm so excited to work with this yarn again. And I'm pretty sure I worked with this before, the Falkland DK. Non-superwash Falkland, 3-ply, 22 microns, 235 yards for 100 grams. I have 3 skeins of this, but I'm just holding up 2 to show you. Really nice brown. I do really like this color. So this is my main color, and my original plan was I bought this yarn at the same time. This was my other spin. I should have wrote down what the name of this was if I'm going to talk about it today, but I bought these 2 colors. They were both from the Archives collection. And it was like, I bought the yarn in the tonal and the fiber in the variegated multicolor option for that month. But, well, okay. So that was the plan when I bought them. When I spun this up, it was a little darker and had more dark brown in it than I was anticipating. So I thought maybe it wouldn't be as contrasty as I would have wanted. Although I'm looking now and it looks probably plenty contrast. But I really want my camera to focus on the yarn. This is my first option. But I want to hold up with the spin that I just finished. Is this better? Because I bought this yarn, or this fiber, to be my contrast in my pressed flowers. Initially, I think like in January. But then I thought of the other combination. But now I'm thinking about going back to this one, but with the same brown yarn. I'm going to maybe hold up both so you can compare. I mean, they're not actually drastically... I thought that maybe my most recent spin here was a lot lighter, but maybe not necessarily. I mean, it kind of is, but now I'm conflicted. Because I feel like color story-wise, this looks better together. Because there is more brown in this. I think the other one has no brown. Versus this. Thoughts? Please give me your thoughts, because actually now I felt very strong about using the Snowshine and Dusk. But now I'm thinking maybe I'm going to go back to the original plan. It's just so funny how that works. Okay, I'm going to do one more hold up of all of them. Do you like option A or option B? Please help. Send help. I'll probably ask my friends too at night. But yeah, okay. I'm gonna work on my, like that cast on's not gonna happen anytime super soon. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna wait until I'm done with my Freddie pullover before I, cast that one on. So there's still lots of time, but, yeah, please help. Send help for that one. Okay. And then, okay, so that was kind of like it for the spinning. I did not do any spinning beyond finishing my Dusk and Snowshine spin. Did not start a new spin project. Unsure if I'm going to start new spin projects this coming week as well. But, okay, I want to talk about the sewing project that I worked on this week. I'm gonna pull this off of, I had nowhere else to hang this, so that's why I hung it on my new lamp. I think in last week's episode, I talked about wanting to sew that weekend, and then I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I had a pattern that was cut out, and I traced out on tracing paper, like the size that I wanted, and I had that cut out too. So all I needed to do was to cut out the fabric pieces, which actually I really don't like doing it. But at least I didn't have to do everything from the start. But it was cut out the fabric pieces and then start sewing. And so I did it. I was like, I'm gonna do it this weekend. And I did, and I finished this top. I actually just finished this last night. So I did spend quite a bit of time on the weekdays after work working on this as well. But here it is. I feel like, actually, I don't know why I'm like held it up on this side when I hold up my knit things on this side, but it's so cute. I feel like this top is very me. It has the ruffles on the gathers on the sleeves. They're like pretty big, and also there's ties on here, so you can tie a bow right here, which is just perfect. But yeah, I didn't even say what the pattern is. This is the March top and dress pattern. So there's top version, which I made, as you can see, and also a dress version. So it's basically this, but this part is longer for the dress. And the pattern is by Helen's Closet, like that's the brand of patterns. And I made size 2. And here it is. The fabric for this, I can actually talk about because I have the tag that was on this fabric when I bought it. I bought this fabric online, and I actually bought it, I think maybe like a couple years ago. Like, it's been in my stash for a while. It is from Core Fabrics. This is what the tag looks like, and I guess the logo. Who knows? Maybe it's changed since then. But it's a textured non-stretch cotton. Color is rosewood, and this is just a very neat color. I love like a brownish pink, mauvish. I mean, rosewood, I feel like just based off of the color name rosewood, I like it. And I do. It is just cotton. But it does have kind of like a texture on it, which maybe hard to see on camera, unless my camera will focus really nicely here for me, please. Kind of textured. There's not really like a right and wrong side on this. I think both sides look pretty the same, and I hope they do because I couldn't tell. And so if I did it wrong, there's probably some right and wrong side fabrics facing on the outside. But yeah, this is a top I made, and I think it's really cute. I've been wanting to make this pattern. I had an eye on this pattern for quite some time. Probably actually when I bought this fabric. I was thinking about making this pattern and just never did. But I finally did, and I'm very happy with it. I have made other patterns. Has it just been one, or has it been a couple patterns from Helen's Closet before? And they've all been fine. And I wear them. One thing though, and I'm really happy I did it with this one, is that I've noticed lately, and maybe it's just because I've been sewing more that I've noticed this more, is the size. I think that I just need a size up from what I think I should sew. Like if I think I should knit size 1, then I should knit size 2, which was the case in this case. Because some of the other things that I sewed this year, I guess not all things, so it's kind of hard to say, but I would look at the measurements and measure, myself, and I'm like, yeah, I should sew. And also, like, if they have the recommended, like, your measurements chart versus like garment size measurements chart, then I'm like, yeah, I will knit size 1. I mean, I will sew size 1. Could be how I'm cutting out the pattern. Maybe it ends up smaller, but I've noticed them to be kind of tight, and I'm confused. Very confused about it. And so for this one, I was like, I think amount of ease, size 1 should be plenty. But because I'm nervous, I'm going to sew size 2. So I did. This is size 2, and it fits great. My one thing that I was surprised about is this neck. if I closed it here, like I actually tied it like this neck opening is quite up here. And I looked at some other people's ones, they look a little bit lower, but this one's really up here. And so I'm like, I'm really glad that I made size 2, because maybe size 1, this would be like choking me. I think a lot of pictures I saw though, people just have it open like this, which would not cause that issue anyway. But yeah, I was still shocked. I was like, really glad I sized up for this one. So yeah, it's good, but I'm confused, and I think I need to be a bit more, I need to look at sizing more closely for sewing things than I think I usually do for knitting things, which is interesting. But yeah, the good thing is that this was a successful project, and I'm really happy with it. Here's what it looks like. There's kind of like a panel that goes in the center back and also the front if you look at it closely, but I like it. Also, there was some gathering that's done here right at the armhole for the sleeve, and also at the wrist, and also for the kind of peplum top, and I was surprisingly not totally put off by it this time around. I love how the gathers look, and so, you know, I probably tend towards patterns that have the gathering in it because I think it looks really cute, but I really, really dread doing it, and I just think it's so finicky and I can never get it right. However, this time around, I don't know what it is, but I didn't feel stressed doing it. I actually felt quite relaxed, just kind of like moving the gathers around and trying to get it to line up. It of course took a while, but I didn't feel as annoyed that it took some time and some like small tweaks here and there to get it done. I also was not annoyed on actually sewing on it, because sometimes it gets, if you don't have it quite lined up right, the sizing, that while you're sewing, you're like, oh my gosh, it's now starting to like bunch, and it's like freaks me out. Didn't have that issue this time either. So I think being more calm about it and just accepting the fact that it's going to take some time was really helpful for me this time around. And I think overall they look pretty even. No, I think in some of my earlier projects, and it could also be because I've done them now enough that I have a better feel for it. That could definitely be it too. Like I have practice now, more practice. But I feel like there's not really some, like empty flat spots anywhere. The gathering all kind of looks pretty even across. I would say maybe except for like at the edges. Right, like that's right here. Like there's a very flat non-gathered section, but it's also right at a seam. So yeah, I'm very pleased. I'm very happy. I'm excited to wear this. Also because it's longer sleeves, so I feel like I could wear this longer into the winter months as well. Actually, probably a good fall top too. I think it's gonna be really comfortable. I'm really excited. I think it's really cute, and it has also, because it was a successful project, I feel like I am even more motivated about more sewing because of it, and so that's good. Also, I feel really proud, again, that I used some fabric that has been in my stash for years. I think it's been years, and so it feels good to have it used for something that's really cute and makes me happy. So yeah, all good things. And yeah, it was great. Speaking of sewing and having motivation for sewing, I do have just small acquisition section. It won't take too long. I did buy some fabric. I know, I was just talking about using up fabric in stash, and I'm adding more fabric to my stash. But this one I feel like is kind of an exception, because my friend Rumor, if you know, and I've talked about her a lot more frequently this year in my podcast, because she was my friend, my sewing friend, who had a pattern come out, a sewing pattern in the Talco magazine earlier this year, named No Way. It was a dress, also like a top. I feel like a lot of sewing patterns just like a dress and a top version, if it is a dress version. or if there is a dress version, you know what I mean? So, yeah, well, I guess maybe not top, maybe like shorter dress and longer dress. Anyway, and I sewed that dress pattern, and so that was one of my successful sewing projects this year. She also designed some fabric, like a fabric print, with this brand called the Linen Lab. And I was like, I absolutely want to buy some of this fabric as well. And there was, of course, if you buy over a certain amount, you get free shipping. And so I kind of fell for that trap as well. I got free shipping, but there was like, some other fees. This brand is from Korea, so I think there was some things there. Anyway, I really, no matter what, wanted to, one, support my friend, but also because this fabric was very pretty. So I bought 5 fabric patterns, different fabric and patterns from this company. But I want to share it with you all because I'm feeling so inspired about sewing right now. Don't worry, knitting's not going anywhere. But this is the fabric print that my friend Rumor designed. I'll hold it up. It's like a navy blue background with these like tan flowers. I think they're like hibiscus flowers. So cute, so pretty. And it is I'm looking at my receipt right now to remember what the fabric content is. This is called Hawaiian inspired floral print fabric, navy and beige, Rami cotton satin weave pre-washed. And my friend also had like a discount code for this, and so I did also use that. If you are also interested, I think she has her discount code somewhere on her Instagram. But yeah, so this was her fabric print. So I got some of this. I was trying to figure out what pattern to sew this with, and I think I landed on a dress pattern that I'm excited for, and I did actually buy that sewing pattern, so this might happen sometime soon. I know I have so many projects I want to do because I would love to get this done before the end of the year as well. But that's one of the fabric prints. The next one I got is a brown navy stripe linen cotton fabric. Oh, the Linen Lab, I guess by the name you can tell, I think most of their things are linen or some kind of linen blend fiber or material, fabric. But here's the other one I got. I just feel like I don't really have too much striped fabric or just pretty, I just don't have that much striped fabric. So I thought this would be a nice, pretty neutral kind of stripe thing to have. I don't really have plans for the rest of these. Kind of want to make some like long pants. I think the one pattern I would love to make, I think it's called the Chanterelle pants. There's like shorts version and also long version, and I would love to make those. Speaking of, because this might be the one that I try it out with. This is the is this called, it looks kind of denim-y, but it's pretty like thin, like it's not really thick. It says blue, it says chambray twill fabric, linen cotton blend, pre-washed. It's just blue. So that might be something I make with that, like pants. And then I have linen cotton chambray. I really don't know how to say that, so I do apologize if that's completely wrong. Herringbone twill fabric, green light. Here's this one. So it has a different kind of like, I think like the herringbone. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Probably not. But it does kind of have that, like, you can see the columns of kind of like the stitches making, or like the weave design thing kind of making that pattern. And you probably can't see it, but you can probably tell it's like this really light green. I just thought that was kind of nice. I don't really have like a greenish colored fabric. And this other one I am quite excited for. Don't know what I'm gonna necessarily use it for, but this is called, I think this print is called Birds of a Feather, linen rayon print fabric in the brown light color. Let's hold it up. I think it's just a really cute, nice, like nature inspired print. You just have different kinds of like flowers on it. And this fabric, I'm sure that whatever, I am not versed in fabric terminology and content and all of that and what it means, but it has a texture on this. It kind of has that like wavy looking texture, like it's not flat. And also it is quite thin, but very flowy. And so I am unsure what I might make with this, but I thought it was really, really nice and probably would be a good fabric type to have for something in the future. But yeah, so that was my fabric acquisitions this week. I know I don't want my fabric stash to become like my yarn stash. But I have been sewing more, and so I don't feel as bad about acquiring some fabric. Also, I had to get the fabric print that my friend made because, one, it is pretty. It's very pretty, and also I want to support my friend. But yeah, so that's all I have for you this week. Is there anything else? Probably not. I feel like that's it. Again, every time. Maybe it's because I just like don't like ending the podcast episodes. Like, it's like I don't like saying bye, you know? But so I just take long amounts of time at the end of the podcast to say bye. But thank you so much for watching the podcast, and thank you so much for your continued support. I really appreciate it. I hope you all still are enjoying the content. I do try to like mix it up here and there, and not keep it super same. Like I knit with different colors, I feel like, different pattern designers. I mean, there's some that I definitely just knit a lot of and support a lot, kind of like Sari Nordlund patterns. I know I have a lot of hand-dyed yarn, so you'll see a lot of the yarn I use is Explore Knits or Woolberry or things like that. But thank you so much for watching. Yeah, knitting's not going anywhere, even though I'm sewing a lot more. Spinning's not going anywhere, because I still love spinning. But yeah, I feel like right now, in transition into fall, I feel very like, into knitting sweaters more. Not that I ever stopped knitting sweaters, but also it's like, it's shawl time. I haven't knit a shawl in a good minute, and I made so many shawls last year, so it might be time for shawls soon. There's some shawl patterns I saw come out recently that I'm interested in, but I also have projects this year that I need to get done this year. Some before December and some at the end of December. So those are kind of, I'm just trying to like keep tabs on where my progress is on those before I like start some new cast-ons for things I wasn't planning. But yeah, I think that's it. I don't really have a skating update. Just been going at it. And yeah, okay, that's it. I will end the podcast now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have something that you've been working on while watching or listening to the podcast that you'd love to share with me, please let me know in the comments down below, because I do love to read about it. And I do look up, whenever you mention a pattern, especially a pattern I don't know, I do look it up in Ravelry to look at what it is, because it does give me inspiration, and so I do love it. So keep doing it if you want to. I do love looking at new patterns. Yeah, thank you so much. I hope you all had a great week, and I hope you all have a great upcoming week, and I'll talk to you all in next week's video. Bye!